Welcome to this latest edition of the Real Deal Podcast on this 1st of October 2018. I'm your host, Ril Gerald Quinn, talking about the world of sports and pop culture. Sports and pop culture, as always, you can follow me on Twitter at William Gerald or go to my Instagram account at Ril Gerald Quinn. Right now, Dodgers are in control, 5-0 over the Rockies. Top of the seventh inning, couple of outs. Earlier today, you had the Brewers taking out the Cubs 3-1. So this means that the Cubs will host the winner, excuse me, the loser of this game in the wild card game in the wild card game. So that means that whoever advances from today is going to have to play in essence, 3 games in 4 days, which to me makes zero sense considering that the fact that it's a reason why you played 19 divisional games over the course of a regular season. You can use that as a tiebreaker over the course of the season, in which the Cubs would have won the tiebreaker over Milwaukee, and move on from there instead of playing all these extra games, which to me is unnecessary. But this is how baseball wants to do it. Um, Again, to me, creating more games, you put more emphasis on the regular season if you do it, if you use a tiebreaker in terms of head to head versus doing it this way, playing all these extra games, tiebreaker. You had the wild card, then you'll have to even before you get to the divisional playoffs. But this is what how baseball wants to do it, and this is how they want to do it. So you'll have again the Milwaukee Brewers. You'll have the Chicago Cubs hosting the loser of this game between the Dodgers and Rockies. And it looks like the Dodgers are in complete control of this particular game. Again, as always, you can find us on iTunes.apple.com. Look up Real Deal Podcast. Appreciate all the support I've been receiving from fans out there. We'll continue producing podcasts at a high level. We have a lot to talk about. Same world of hip hop. We'll begin with the league with no contract is guaranteed. Um, it looked like early on during the course of the NFL day that was going to be just going to be a day to forget. I mean, you look at some of these games. Um, it was low scoring in the beginning. These games didn't look exciting, were not exciting, but around halftime, third quarter, the games picked up, and you end up getting a number of overtime games. To me, the game of the day was now taken out Atlanta. The Falcon defense has been awful in the particular last 2 games. They're giving up like 40 points a game. They're wasting a MVP caliber effort from Matt Ryan, who in the last couple of games has been fantastic. He was great again yesterday, but all for naught as the Atlanta defense can't stop anybody. Look up, don't look now, but Cincinnati is 3-1. They play 3-1, playing well. So they take out Atlanta 37-36. You had Tennessee getting a nice victory over the Philadelphia Eagles, 26-23. Give Mike Vrabel some credit for some fourth down gambles, and he took the field goal kicker off the field and decided to go for it on a fourth down. Mariota played great. Mariota played great. Wentz wasn't bad himself. Wentz, starting to look like his old self, but Tennessee made a couple more plays at Tennessee. So Tennessee now again playing well. Eagles fall to 2-2 on the season. Fall 2-2 on the season. Still trying to find themselves. I think the Eagles will be fine once it's said and done. But that's a tough loss, tough bit of a loss for the Eagles at Tennessee. Had Dallas surviving Detroit 26-24. Big day out. Gill over 200 yards from scrimmage. Dak Prescott converted a big pass play to set up a game in field goal to get Dallas their second win of the season. Baltimore handling Pittsburgh 26-14. The Pittsburgh defensive secondary is god awful right now. They cannot stop any down the field passing attack from any quarterback, and Joe Flacco didn't expose that, but just continued to expose that fact. Over 300 yards passing. He outplayed Roethlisberger. Baltimore shut down Pittsburgh's running game for the most part. Completely shut it down for the most part and basically forced Pittsburgh to be a one-dimensional team. And again, after give Baltimore credit, Pittsburgh came back to tie the game at 14 all before halftime. But Baltimore's defense was dominant in the second half and shut basically Pittsburgh down. Shut Pittsburgh down. That's a nice win for Baltimore on the road in the division against their rival. And again, Pittsburgh's going to have to get this defense figured out in terms of that secondary. I know they're banged up in a couple of spots, but anybody can throw down the field on Pittsburgh right now. Green Bay shuts out Buffalo 22-0. Despite the great defensive effort, there's some trouble in paradise when it comes to the Packers between McCarthy and also and Aaron Rodgers. Again, Aaron Rodgers right now does not seems like he's not liking the play calling. Um, Said some things in the media, and here's what I say: if you're Mike McCarthy, and this happens in the NBA with star players, it's gotten to a point to where if you're a coach, in particular the NBA and the NFL, if you have a LeBron James, if you have a Kevin Durant, if you have an Aaron Rodgers, a Tom Brady, you have that caliber player. Every player is not worthy of this kind of respect, but you have that caliber player. You have to give them the respect in terms of what they see on the field. They are a special breed. They see things that 99% of the population, that 99% of people playing sports, professional sports, just don't see. So to me, the great coach, the coaches that are going to stay around and survive this generation of players and evolve with the times are the coaches who are listening to these superstar generational type players. Now again, I'm not talking about the Jimmy Butlers of the world. I'm not even talking about all stars. I'm talking about these all world generational all time great talents. You gotta listen to these guys because they see what others don't see on the field, especially the quarterback. I mean, Aaron Rodgers can run an offense by himself. He doesn't need an offensive coordinator. He is the offensive coordinator on the field. That's just the reality of the situation. Aaron Rodgers, like Peyton Manning, like Tom Brady, are in total control. Drew Brees is in that same league as far as being in total control of their offense and been around long enough to completely know what they're doing. So again, if Mike McCarthy wants to stay around past this year, they just signed Aaron Rodgers. They have to make a choice between Mike McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers. They're gonna choose Aaron Rodgers. It's just that simple. I know Green Bay is similar to Pittsburgh, stable franchise. They don't sign a lot of free agents. They don't change a lot. Don't change as far as the coaches, but they realize that Aaron Rodgers does not have that many more years left playing to be the best player, not only the best quarterback in the league, but the best player in the league. Those years, who knows, 2, 3 years, maybe two at this level. Um, Brady's extended his career. Brady could be the aberration. I mean, you're talking about a guy who, again, not to get off the subject, but I'm reading this NFL book, Big Game, by Mark Leibowitz. And some of the stuff Tom Brady does to keep himself in shape, it's been well documented, but it's just, it's remarkable. Even if you hate the Patriots, you got to give Brady credit for what he's doing to keep himself, to prolong his career and keep himself in the absolute tip top condition. But if you're Mike McCarthy, you have to listen to Aaron Rodgers. It's just that simple. There should be no conflict between the two. Privately, if I'm McCarthy, I'm meeting with Aaron Rodgers and saying what do you like, basically? What do you see on the field? New England uh, toys with Miami 38-7. You could kind of see this coming a mile away. An angry New England team, a Miami team that's frankly, a little overrated to say the least. Really not that good. Decent team, but not that good. New England at home. That's almost had to have the game. Didn't want to fall. In essence, 3 or 4 games behind. behind Miami in the loss column, and with one game at hand in the division. So not gonna say must win, but kind of was a kind of big game for New England. They came out, played like it. Again, I never thought Miami was that good to begin with. Kind of been winning with smoke and mirrors, to say the least. And went out and New England went out there and embarrassed 38-7. You had New Orleans taking on the Jets. Excuse me, the Giants 33-18. I thought the Giant defense actually played well for about two and a half quarters. The Giant offense did nothing in this game. Didn't get a defense a chance, to be honest with you, because I actually thought the Giant defense played decent. The score got away from them in the fourth for the most part. Two and a half, 3 quarters. That their defense held up, but and held New Orleans to about to I think New Orleans kicked 4 or 5 field goals. I think they kicked 4 field goals in the game, but kind of got worn down, as I should not be drinking this soda, but got worn down in the second half, and New Orleans ran away, pulled away 33-18. So there you go. With the NFL, of course, tonight you have a very good game. Kansas City, Denver. I think this game is I believe this game is at Denver. Let me check to be perfectly. Yes, the game is at Denver. You're gonna have Mahomes, who has broken the record for most touchdown passes in the first 3 games of the season, on the road against a fierce pass rush against one of the top pass rushers in the league in Von Miller. So it should be a nice test for a guy who right now is the MVP of the league. So should be a nice game. Thursday night, the Rams again are to me are on super team alert. I mean the Rams right now, as they took out Minnesota 38-31, did whatever they wanted to offensively. Jared Goff, if not for Mahomes, could be considered an MVP candidate as well. He's great. And consider this. Remember Jared Goff's first year, when people were actually doubting him as that number one pick, as that first round number one pick, and he's a long way away from that. He played great in that game. I don't know what's going on with the Minnesota defense. That defense is not the same as it was last year. There are a couple teams around the league who had quality defenses last year who are nowhere near where they were last year. Pittsburgh, Minnesota. I would add Atlanta to that list. I thought Atlanta's defense played very good. Was a top 10 defense last year. So a lot of teams have dipped defensively that played well last year. Minnesota is near at the top of that list. That defense is bad right now. Jared Goff did whatever he wanted to. The Rams had over 500 yards of offense, and again, as far as I'm concerned, the Rams are absolutely on super team alert as far as how they're playing. When they get their defense cranking, they're really going to be tough to deal with. And right now, without a shadow of a doubt, the best team to me, the best team in all of football. As far as the college goes, over the weekend, you had the two big games. Notre Dame made a big time statement with what they did to Stanford, 38-17. They broke a close game open in the second half. Now Notre Dame can basically, I'm not gonna say cruise to a possible playoff playoff spot, but they control their own fate without question. Now, this Virginia Tech game at Virginia Tech Saturday night will be a game where, if you're Notre Dame, it is the definition of a trap game. Virginia Tech is a very good team. I understand they had a tough loss a couple of weeks ago. A couple of weeks ago as a 29-point favorite, but to me, that is not the Virginia Tech team that that's not the Virginia Tech team that you know that we're accustomed to seeing, and that is not the real Virginia Tech team that you saw a couple weeks ago. They got beat on the road, Blacksburg Saturday night. That is a tough spot coming off in an emotional, physical game against a good Stanford team. That is a. I would not be surprised at all if Notre Dame lost that game. Wouldn't be the least bit surprised. That's a tough spot. Um, you're asking 18 to 21-year-old kids, young men, to emotionally keep that same level against a team that will not be perceived as nowhere near as being as good as Stanford. And I don't listen. I don't think Virginia Tech. There's not a big difference between Virginia Tech and Stanford. There really is not. Now Virginia Tech doesn't have a high trophy candidate on their team like the Stanford running back, who Notre Dame did excellent job at keeping in check. They don't have that on their team. That Virginia Tech, I watched Virginia Tech a couple times this year. Virginia Tech is a very good team, and they are more than capable of beating Notre Dame, especially at night, at home, at night. It's a tough spot for Notre Dame. A tough spot for Notre Dame. So if they can get through that game, to me, it is almost clear sailing in order for them to get to possibly play for a national championship. They will be favored in every game moving forward. And again, I know they have late season matchups. Florida State and USC. Now again, Florida State won. I'm still not. I don't believe in Florida State. Louisville's terrible this year, so there's So I don't know how much stock I put in that win for Florida State. USC just looks completely down this year. So as of right now, those two teams would be basically walkovers as of right now for Notre Dame. Now things could change between now and November. We all know that injuries, teams could get hot. Um, a lot of things can change between now and then, but right now, those are not games that I would be concerned about. That concerned about if I'm a fan, if I'm a Notre Dame fan as of right now. But again, that could change later on in the season. But again, that was a big win for them against Stanford. Uh, Great win for Ohio State. If you're Penn State, you have to be sick as a dog. Penn State seemingly had control of that game. I thought Penn State's defense played great for the most part. I know they gave a couple of scores late in the fourth quarter, but keep in mind you are not going to hold. If you hold Ohio State and that offense under 30 points, I think you've done your job. Like, you're not going to hold that team to 14 points, 17, 20 points. It's just not going to happen. They have too many weapons. The quarterback is a legit player, and I think will be a pro. They have speed at all positions. Again, 4th and 5, you decide to run a zone replay when your quarterback McSorley had been just gouging Ohio State. I think he had over 40 yards of total offense by himself. He played a tremendous game. For whatever reason, James Franklin, you decide to take the ball out of your best player's hand, and 4th and 5, you lose yards, and that was a ball game. So that's a bad loss. It's a bad loss for Penn State, considering it was at home and considering that they seemingly were in control of the game. Great win for Ohio State. Ohio State does not have clear sailing to a Big Ten championship, but certainly is in a nice position to get to a playoff spot. Ohio State, I feel like can afford. Maybe Ohio State can afford a loss. I don't can afford a loss and get to the playoffs. But right now, they are in total control of the Big Ten. And again, if you're Penn State, that's a brutal way to lose a game in front of 110,000 people with that call. I mean, you're going to get listen. If you're going to go down, you have to go down with your best player, and the quarterback. That quarter with Saquon Barkley playing in the NFL right now, that quarterback he is clearly their best player, as far as offensively, without question. He's offensively their best player. So tough loss for Penn State. Great win for Notre Dame. Georgia, Alabama, those teams keep on rolling. Washington now becomes the team to watch out for on the West Coast with Stanford going down. So I mean, with USC not being what it was, but what it was in the past couple of years, with Stanford going down, you have Washington as kind of like the team to watch out on the West Coast, and again, still a long long way to go in college football. You can't start taking things seriously until they come out with the first playoff poll. But again, you know who the teams are as of right now. I mean, you have Clemson, Alabama, Clemson, Georgia, Ohio State. Ohio State, you know, I would say right now, again in Clemson, we don't know how serious their quarterback got knocked out. That was a tough loss for Syracuse. Syracuse easily could have won that game. The the quarterback, the Clemson quarterback got knocked out concussed. So who knows what his stats are going to look like in the next coming weeks. But again, Clemson has so much talent across the board that you can be down to your third string quarterback and still beat a feisty Syracuse team, which is definitely much improved. Um, we know Georgia is loaded. We know what Alabama is Oklahoma, Ohio State. We know Oklahoma can score 1,000 points. So we know who the top 5 or 6 teams are again the team that made the major move and that controls his own destiny that was outside of the conference that was independent outside of the conference has to be Notre Dame. Notre Dame has to be the big winner this weekend as far as college football goes. They control their own destiny and they won probably the toughest game they're going to have remaining on their schedule. Already have wins over Stanford and Michigan. And again, the Michigan win looks better and better each week because Michigan came in. I didn't know Michigan was ranked after today. I'm sure Michigan's close to being a top 10 team, but Michigan came into the weekend ranked in the top 14. Ranked number 14. They had a come from behind win against Wisconsin. Excuse me, against Northwestern after being down 17-0. So there you go with the football. Again, with the NFL, it looked like it was going to be one of those lackluster weeks, but you got a couple overtime games, had some decent finishes, had a couple explosions as far as passing, as far as a couple of offensive explosions. Luck, throwing 62 passes, that's not going to work out. That's not going to work out with if you're Indianapolis. Deshaun Watson finally looked like Deshaun Watson in that game, in that win versus Indianapolis. That's a tough loss for Indianapolis. Luck throwing the interception that led to the game-winning field goal. But Deshaun Watson, for the first time this year, finally somewhat looked like himself. Wentz coming off the injury, even in a defeat, made some nice throws. Again, Philadelphia offensively still trying to find themselves. Um, Again, you have the McCarthy Rogers thing that will not go away anytime soon as long as Green Bay offense continues to struggle. As they again their defense were able to hold up against a bad, just awful Buffalo Bill offense, 22-0. So again, there you go with the football. I'm gonna shift gears now to what was a monumental weekend in hip hop. So, do we want to deal with album releases or the nonsense first? All right, let's get the nonsense out the way. In regards to Kanye West, Kanye West is is a musical genius. Okay, as a producer, as an MC, as an artist, he's a musical genius. What Kanye West is not, he's not a political analyst. He's not a politician. He's not Angela Rye. He's not Don Lemon. He's not, even Rush Limbaugh. Let's stop putting value in what Kanye West says. Because the only thing that happens is you give his words power. It is no secret to me or it should be to anybody else that Kanye West wants to run for president in 2020. One of the reasons why he's wearing a "Make America Great Again," "Make America Great Again" hat. Is because he watched Donald Trump became president, and he's sort of trying to trying to take away from trying to copy what the Trump the Trump what Trump did to get to that point, to get into the White House. Now, is it realistic? No. But you have to understand, um, you just can't put value into what Kanye says. I mean, you can't put any energy into it. When I heard about what happened, because I watched the Saturday Night Live performance, I watched the Saturday Night Live show, which I see, for the most part was awful. I mean, I did think Matt Damon did a good job with the Kavanaugh impersonation, but outside of that, the show was trash. Kanye's musical performances was fine with it, but I wasn't surprised when I woke up on Sunday morning to hear about Kanye's Trump rant and what he said and what he was trying to say. It wasn't the least bit surprised. What I'm kind of surprised about, and maybe I shouldn't be at this point, is the reaction, the energy that people give it. Listen, if you don't want to listen to Kanye's music based on his political views, that's your business. But what I'm asking you is, you shouldn't be taking what Kanye West says seriously. I don't know where Kanye is at mentally. It doesn't really matter. You could be mentally there and just not know what the hell you're talking about. Again, Kanye West, I don't care about what West thinks about anything. I'm gonna just be honest with you. And he has a right to his opinion on any subject or any walk of life. I'm only gonna pay attention to what he's as far as I'm concerned. So when he says about slavery and Trump and this and that, I could care less about. Because again, what he is saying is not well thought out. It's not well researched. He he tried to backtrack what he said about abolishing slavery to saying he meant to say he wanted to amend slavery. Dude, I need you to know the difference between the word abolish and amend. And that goes, what that tell you is he's not doing the research. It takes what, 5 seconds, it takes 15 seconds, 10 seconds to Google the words research. Excuse me, Google the word abolish or Google the word amend, so you know the words that are coming, what the words coming out of your mouth mean. It doesn't take that long to Google those words. You only need to own a dictionary. Get on the phone, Google, see what the word means. Look up in the internet dictionary, online dictionary, which they do, which they have. But this is who he is. This is what these thoughts that he are not. It's just talk. They are not well conceived at all. And again, you have to understand who you are dealing with at this point. So again, I only take Kanye's musical opinion serious. That's the only opinions of Kanye West I take serious. I don't take anything sports, about I don't know movies. I'm not gonna. As far as the albums coming out, I heard all three albums: Kanye, Lil Wayne, and Logic. Kanye's gotta be third. If I was ranking the albums that came out, I would rank Kanye third. I like Kanye. I like this album better. This second Kanye album out earlier this year. I really like the Wayne and Logic albums. Those two albums I strongly recommend. Even though the Wayne album is 23 tracks, it like you could skip 2 or 3 tracks, which is good, which is great considering that it has 23 tracks. There are 2 or 3 tracks that you could probably move past, but for the most part, I thought the features were utilized the right way. Yeah, it's Kendrick, Nicki, he has a number of people on the album. I was fine with the album. Listened to it a couple times over the course of the weekend. The Logic album is great. The Logic album is great. A lot of, quality beats on it. Just gives you a story of who he is. I liked how he ended the album with what is it, the called roll call, which is about 10 minutes and almost 11 minutes long. Just basically giving you his entire story in one song. So strong weekend for hip hop, and even with Kanye's album, again this album is closer to who he was as a MC in the first than the album that came back in June. And I was fine with the album that came out in June. I thought the production was stronger than what he said in his lyrical content. This content came closer to the production level versus the first album. So strong, great weekend for hip hop. Great year for hip hop in general. I mean, how many? Think about all the artists who came out this year. You've had what Nas, Drake, Kanye, uh, Nipsey Hussle. I mean, think about how many artists from the old and new genres have come out this year. It's going to go down as one of it's going to go down as a sentimental year for the world of hip hop. Once we look come December, right now, still even as we stand here on October 1st, still in the moment, so to speak. Waiting for albums to come out. Cardi B, um, Cardi B, Nicki Minaj coming out. Remember early in the year, there's some albums that we even forgot about that came out February, January, February. So this is a big year for hip hop, without question. You look at the charts, look at the streams, the sales. Hip hop dominates the charts. There's no two ways about it. You can love it, hate it. It is the Billboard charts is dominating these top 100, top 200. So it's been a major year for hip hop to say the least. Dodgers about to close out. Colorado trying to see what the score is right now. 5-0. The eighth inning. 5-0 top of the eighth. 2 outs. So Dodgers are about just 3 outs away. Excuse me, 4 outs away from um, from clinching the NL West outright and having Colorado travel to Chicago for a wild card winner take all game tomorrow. Overall, you look at the baseball playoffs again. I wouldn't be surprised if any team, maybe with the exception of Colorado, 'cause I'm not Colorado, never have been, but any of those teams, whether it's Chicago, the Dodgers, Milwaukee, any one of those three teams comes out and gets the world, I wouldn't be surprised at all. The power still remains in the American League. The four best teams in baseball are in the American League: Houston, Boston, Cleveland, and New York. Of course, everybody, baseball wants a Yankee, Boston. They're going to get, of course, Houston, Cleveland, which will be a great series. But everybody wants that Final Four, those power four in terms of Yankees, Cleveland, Houston. I still think Houston is a team to beat, not only in the American League and all of baseball. I still think they have the best balance of starting pitching, and that lineup is just ridiculous. But it is going to be a war zone in the American League. It's going to be a minefield. I'm not, again, I think the Yankees are a year away in regards to their pitching. This is where I think the Yankees are going to get exposed for all those home runs. I know they set the major league record for most home runs in the season. Great pitching will find those holes in power in power hitters. So those home runs, you can beat up on mediocre pitching over the course of the regular season. Over the course of 162 games, the majority of the pitching that you're going against is average to mediocre. Only very few teams have top notch starting pitching. So when you get to the postseason, that gets exposed. That gets exposed, especially for a team that is so dependent on the home run. And the Yankees, to me, I don't think the Yankees can get to a World Series. I just think they're too dependent on the home run. Um, Real Deal Podcast. Boston, Houston, all type has a type of, have the type of offenses that are a little bit more versatile than what the Yankees are. Yankees are basically solely dependent on the home run. They're far too dependent on the home run. Cleveland, Houston, Cleveland have the best starting pitching. I think the Yankees starting pitching is a little bit better than the, excuse me. I think Boston is a little bit a smidge better than the Yankees, but overall, I think Houston is still the team to beat in all of baseball, in all of baseball right now. And I think it's hard to repeat in baseball, but right now, if I think you had an odds-on favorite, it still have to be the Houston Astros. That lineup, starting pitching again, the bullpen can be shaky. Let's be honest, the bullpen can be shaky, but I feel better about their bullpen this year than I did last year. So it should be an exciting postseason. I'm looking forward to certainly looking forward to it as we enter October. Again, if you're a sports fan, there's no busier time over the course of the calendar is right now. You have all when the NBA kicks tips off October 16th, you have all four major sports going on at the same time. So you'll have the baseball playoffs, you'll have this hockey season, which kicks off Wednesday, you'll have the NFL in the second quarter of the season, college football will start have some of their major games in October, and of course the baseball playoffs. So everything going on, it'll be very busy. It will be a very busy time in the world of sports, even busier than from April to June when you have the baseball when you have baseball getting started, NBA and playoffs, and a host of other events like the Kentucky Derby. I told you guys this. I told you the United States will be favored as they were, but the Europeans seemingly find a way to win the World Cup, not the World Cup, the Ryder Cup, and that's exactly what happened. And it turns out it wasn't even close. And now you're reading reports from the New York Times. You got guys like Patrick Reed complaining about the pairings. Can Jim Furyk, listen, take your ass whipping and keep it moving. The Europeans kicked America's ass. So we just can't accept a defeat. We have to point fingers as Americans. It's not our fault. You got to point fingers at the pairing. They got to point fingers at the captain. You got to point fingers at this, that, and the third. No, take your ass whipping and keep it moving. You got your asses kicked. It's just that simple. And I mean, again, you had Tiger. Tiger Woods was like, look, I should have played. I could have played better. I could have played better. That's it. There's nowhere else to it. I don't want to hear about the pairings. It's a golf course. It's not the first time Patrick Reed has played in a Ryder Cup. A Jordan Spieth. I mean, give me a break. Again, I can't explain why Europe dominates the United States Ryder Cup in and Ryder Cup out. I know remember, the United States has not won on European soil since 1993. 1993. It is a long time. But again, I don't need to hear about Americans complaining about. This is not an excuse on why you got your asses kicked. And it was a absolute beatdown. That's going to wrap it up for this latest edition of the Real Deal Podcast. I will, you will hear from me later on this week. As always, this is the Real Deal Podcast, telling it like it is with no apologies. Thanks for listening.